Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of MYOG, Make or Modify Your Own Gear. And today, we're going back to the Frank Bush Ridgeline, because I've come up with some improvements, at least I think they're improvements. I'll let you decide. And at the heart of the Frank Bush Ridgeline is this jungle prusik. At least that's what I'm calling it. And it works very well for what it was made for, which was stringing up a tarp, a rain fly, emergency shelter, stuff like that. But there is a couple things about it that were bugging me a little bit now after using it for a while. One of those things is, all right, you take it to the second knot, which would be this one, and you tuck it in, and when it's under tension, that's what creates this loop, and that goes through your grommet or whatever. So when it's under tension, it's pinching that knot. Well, the problem with that is if it's not under tension, you see that, how I just shook it? It comes apart. So I started playing around with some ideas, and I came up with this. Adding a pony bead creates a lock. So when you go ahead and you use this one, and you come in here like this, and you put that pony bead down, that locks that up. Now, it will not come loose even when it's not under tension. You got that loop. More on this pony bead in a minute. But before I get too deep into this, let me explain what a pony bead is. Alright. This, I can get some light on here. This is a pony bead. Specifically, this, what I'm holding in my hand, is a 9 by 6 millimeter pony bead with a 3 millimeter hole, which is pretty standard. They do make smaller and larger pony beads, so be aware. Pony beads have been around. It was kind of funny. I decided to take a little dive into history because I really didn't know much about pony beads. And this style of bead has been around. They traced them all the way back to ancient Mesopotamia, 2,500 years ago. Kind of crazy they were making them back then. Here in the U.S., they're mainly made for crafting and kids out of plastic, and they're very inexpensive. You can get a great big bag for like under $5, okay? So hopefully whatever country you're in, you'll be able to get a pony bead. Once again, 9 millimeter by 6 millimeter with a 3 millimeter hole. Okay? So back to what I was saying. This creates a lock, which is extremely useful. You can unlock that, and then you can get it out. Well, shortly after I did this, I'm playing around, I added a bead here to the bottom, and that creates another lock. So with this lock on the bottom, you can come in here with something like a toggle, put it on the bottom one, and lock that toggle in. Now you could go ahead and you could hang your backpack suspended off your ridgeline if you so choose. Or let's say you have a tool or a piece of equipment where the handle's going to fit through there, like a tomahawk. Once again, you could slide that tomahawk right in there and let it hang from the ridgeline, should you so choose. So then when I got to this point where I had 2 locks, I started looking at other variations, and that's when I came up with this 3-lock design. Once again, we got one here on the bottom. We got one here in between knot 3 and 4. And then we've got one up here in between the prusik and number 4 knot. and this is on a guy line. And what this comes in useful for is you've run this through your tarp, you've hooked up, and you've tightened everything up. You take your excess guy line, wrap it up, tuck it in here, and snug that lock up on it, so you don't have any loose lines laying around. All right. The third refinement I came up with is I wanted a bigger loop. And I think I can illustrate it with this one more. If you've noticed, there's more distance between these two knots. All right. Originally, this one, we have 2 inches or about 5 centimeters between each knot. This one, I have 2 inches here or 5 centimeters. Then I've got 3 inches between these knots, which is about 7.62 centimeters. And then 2 inches again, which is 5 centimeters. But in order for us to keep this loop as big as it originally was, I had to add cord to this. So overall, compared, it's a little longer. And I'm going to show you how I put that together. So we're going to start out with our number 36 bank line, which works with our pony beads. And we're going to measure out 34 inches. Now that's 86.3 centimeters. There's my 34. And we tie our first knot. Hope everybody's weekend is going well. Okay, so there's our first knot. Then we're going to measure 2 inches or 5 centimeters. Oh, almost got ahead of myself. Now we want to add a pony bead to this. Now sometimes you can pinch that cord together and get it small enough that you can force the bead on there, just like that. And then we're going to run it down. And there's a nice amount of resistance, so those beads aren't going to be flopping all over the place. All right, now we're going to measure 2 inches or 5 centimeters. Going to tie our next knot. And I think right about there. Okay, so there's 2 inches. Then we're going to do 3 inches, which is 7.62 centimeters. There you go, there's 3 inches. Now we're going to add another pony bead. Now, if by pinching this, if you can't get your bank line through there, you're having issues, let me show you another way of doing it. Take some dental floss. Run that dental floss through your bank line like this. Then thread the dental floss through the pony bead. Pinch it and give it a little pull, and it'll pull that right through. I've been lucky enough that most of mine I can just pinch and force through and I have no issue. Okay, now we're going to tie another 2-inch knot, or 2-inch distance I should say, or 5 centimeter And then we want to add one more pony bead if you want that extra functionality. I've gotten into the habit of adding it even when I don't think I need it. Okay. Gotta cut this. Melt the ends. Sorry if my hands are a little shaky. I had 3 cups of coffee this morning, so I'm a little wound up. Alright. Okay. This one's ready to go. And here's one of my completed, modified, I'm going to call this the Mark II Frank Bush Ridgeline with the beads. Just in case some of my viewers in other countries cannot, for one reason or another, find pony beads or a similar bead that's going to work, I have a couple DIY options. The first one is you take a small coin. In this instance, I'm using an American penny. And you drill a hole in it. And there's our lock. It's perfectly functional. It works. It's well, cost a whole penny. Now you can go ahead, you can lock up this loop. I kind of like this because it's easy to manipulate even with a pair of gloves. Okay? The second option is to make a small toggle. Here I have a small toggle, I drilled a hole in it, and that is our lock once again. So you just lock it up. Like so. If you're wondering why I'm wearing a band-aid in this and not later, this is future me filling in. As I was editing this video, I realized I didn't include a DIY option here for people that might not be able to get beads. So there you go. Coin, toggle. I just want to show you with this 3-inch, when we lock this up normally, how we'd normally use it, putting our knot in here. Let's lock this up. I tell you, sometimes bank line can be a little stiff when it's brand new. And we get a significantly bigger loop. I mean, I can fit my finger all the way through that. And a bigger loop means, to me, that I can do more with it. Let's say you got an older tarp where the grommets aren't right near the edge. They're maybe a little further back. Well, that extra loop there might make all the difference in hooking that tarp up. Just food for thought. Okay, let's take this system out and I'll show you what it's all about. One thing I have noticed with this new Jungle Prusik setup is the distance between here, 3 inches or 7.62 centimeters, allows us to actually lock up on MOLLE webbing, whereas the previous version, which was 2 inches or 5 centimeters, was a little too short. And there we go. So gives us even more options. You could lark's head the other end on some MOLLE, and now use this to hook up something. There's, man, this opens up a lot of other doors. So that is my improvement. I'm calling it the Mark II Jungle Prusik with the beads. Now you have other options here. So while I was at the craft store getting these pony beads, I found these little skull type beads, and they're also pony beads with a 3 to 4 millimeter hole, and they have enough of a drag that I made another Ridgeline setup. This is my Halloween themed one with skulls. And they're glow in the dark too, but they don't glow that well, so if that's what you're really going for, you're going to be a little disappointed in the glow. I know I was. Excuse me, Kira. So, anyway, that's the Mark II Jungle Prusik for the Frank Bush Ridgeline. Let me know what you think in the comments. I like the ability to lock this. I'm finding it very useful. And that's all I got to say on that. I have a cat here moving my camera, and she's very interested in all this line up here. So I gotta fight her off. So I will catch you all later on. All right, everybody have a great night. Kira, say good night. Thank you.